This is what he wrote on page 110 of his book entitled Benjamin Franklin, his autobiography, published by P.F. Collier and Son as one of the Harvard classics. Franklin tells us how he and some of his fellow legislators in government tricked their fellow office holders. He and some of his fellow legislators wanted to purchase some gunpowder, but they knew the Quaker legislators in Pennsylvania would not approve the purchase of such an article of war. So Franklin and his fellow legislators wrote up a bill that they could vote on for 3,000 pounds for the purchasing of bread, flour, wheat, and other grain. Notice, other grain. After the legislation was approved, they bought gunpowder with the 3,000 pounds, and some of their fellow legislators objected, claiming that they did not authorize that. But Mr. Franklin told them that. Gunpowder was indeed other grain. They had just invented a way to conceal their trickery by hoping that the legislator would think that the phrase other grain was for other ingredients of bread, and he provided his readers with another example of their trickery and deceit. They wanted to purchase, quote, a great gun, end quote, presumably a huge cannon. They wrote up legislation to buy a, quote, fire engine, end quote, and the legislators voted for the fire engine. And Mr. Franklin bought his great gun. As he pointed out, surely a great gun is a fire engine. Our founding fathers did not lie to us. They simply used words to deceive. And I will show you how they deceived us in the writing of the Constitution later in this presentation. I wrote my second book entitled The New World Order in 1990 as an attempt to identify the true motive of the conspiracy that I had uncovered in the writing of my first book. And to start the explanation of what their motive is, I must start by stating, there is something coming. This thing coming is not very pleasant, and it is called the New World Order. And lastly, this information that I will be covering today will offend some of you. I am sorry for that, but I must tell the truth as I find it. I am hopeful that those offended by what I will say will confirm that I'm right by their own research and then take some corrective action, like education. Our founding fathers committed this nation to the New World Order in at least the year 1782. They believed their mission was a noble one, but to conceal that future from the American people, they used words and symbols to deceive, just as Mr. Franklin admitted in his autobiography. They certainly believed that their ultimate desire, the New World Order, would be very unpleasant to the American people if they knew about the system they were going to give them, and that the people would not allow them to change it. And to show you an example that will show you how they deceive us, let me show you a drawing that appeared in a book entitled A Bridge to Light by 33rd degree Mason Rex Hutchins. By the way, the 33rd degree of the Masons is the highest degree attainable, and it appears as if the 33rd degree of Freemasonry runs the Masons worldwide. And this book was published by the Masons themselves, so it is official. This is the first page of this book, showing the reader that this book has been published by the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree of the Masonic Lodge. Mr. Hutchins reproduced this drawing, showing two men, one on top and the other reversed from the other, and he called it An Aged Man and His Reflection. The word reflection is defined as a mirror image, but upside down. That means that both of these drawings should be the same, except the one on the bottom will be reversed. So now let's look at this drawing again. Notice that the two drawings are not of the same man. All of the items on the top drawing change in the drawing of the bottom figure. For instance, the man's black shirt changes to white in the bottom drawing, the banner around his neck changes from white to black, and the words are different. So Mr. Hutchins is wrong when he says that it is a drawing of an aged man and his reflection, because many of the things in the top drawing change in the bottom drawing. If the drawing were that of a man and his reflection, the bottom figure would be a mirror image of the drawing on the top. This is the drawing of the man on the top. Notice that the aged man has been drawn wearing what appears to be a crown with a cross on top. I believe the crown represents government and the cross represents Christianity. So this drawing represents the merger of government and religion, meaning government based upon the morality taught by Christianity, meaning the cross. Now let's look at the, quote, man's reflection, end quote. That doesn't look like a man to me. It looks more like a demon. Notice that the demon is still wearing a crown, but the cross has been removed. That means that the man represents a government without the moral teachings of Christianity. That means that the Masons are advocating a new world order, because the new world order is a new civilization for the people of the world without the teachings of God. So this drawing is intended to show you the future, a government run by a demon without the teachings of Christianity. Now let me show you the involvement of the Masons in the creation of the United States. This is Henry C. Clausen, the past Sovereign Grand Commander of the Masons, meaning he was a president of their fraternity. He was the author of this book entitled Masons Who Have Shaped Our Nation, published in 1976 by the Supreme Council of the 33rd Degree in Washington, D.C. Also an official book, of course. He wrote that 23 of the 39 signers of the Constitution were members of the Masonic Lodge, and of course 23 of the 39 signers of the Constitution would be a clear majority. I have seen various estimates about the number of the signers of the Declaration of Independence who were Masons, one of which held that as many as 52 of the 56 signers were members. But even the Masons do not know directly just how many of these men were Masons, members of their fraternity. The reason that no one knows for certain is that many Masonic records were destroyed in the Revolutionary War of 1776. So 23 of the 39 signers were members of the Masons, that's official, which means that they were clearly the majority of the body that wrote the Constitution. So whatever they wanted, they had the authority to obtain. This is Manly P. Hall, another 33rd degree Mason, who is perhaps the greatest Masonic writer of all time. Mr. Hall wrote a book that was published in 1944, entitled The Secret Destiny of America, in which he discussed this nation's future. He wrote this: there exists in the world today, and has existed for thousands of years, a body of enlightened humans united in what might be termed an order of the quest.